From The Australian, here's what's on the front. I'm Claire Harvey. It's Monday, August 4, 2025. A federal court showdown today pits veteran queer community groups against trans rights activists, laying bare a bitter fight beneath the rainbow flag. Today, why some lesbian groups believe their identity is being destroyed by laws that say everyone must be included. Before we begin, there's a bit of swearing in this episode and also frank discussion about sexuality. Sydney's Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras is a glorious, glittery celebration of community and of difference. In a few minutes of this year's parade came the Brisbane Gay Gardeners, people with signs declaring transgender defender, and the Association of Gay and Lesbian Doctors and Dentists, all dancing to Dua Lipa's Physical.
I like the gays, I like the LGBTQ community.
One of Australia's most globally famous exports, comedian Jim Jeffries, sums up the difference like this.
I like the L, the B, the G, the T, the Q. I support them all equally as individual groups. I do not support them as a collective group because they have fucking nothing in common.
Under that rainbow flag, there's a world of different opinions and beliefs, and one of those differences comes bursting forward today when lesbians and trans activists face off before the full bench of the federal court. The case is colloquially known as Tickle versus Giggle, but it's deadly serious. A trans woman, Roxanne Tickle, took legal action after being rejected for joining a women's-only app, Giggle for Girls. According to court documents, Tickle was male at birth but had gender reassignment surgery and now has an updated Queensland birth certificate that says she is female.
A small group of people have taken it upon themselves to declare that I am not who I know I am, and they've set about making my life miserable.
Giggle's founder, Sal Grover, says she created the app for women to discuss everything from work to parenting, but quickly found herself overwhelmed by people she says were biological men wishing to join. The federal court agreed with Tickle, ruling she'd been the victim of indirect discrimination because Grover and Giggle rejected her because she didn't look like a cisgender woman. The court ordered Grover and Giggle to pay her $10,000 plus costs. Grover appealed, taking the case to the full federal court.
I don't acknowledge that this male person, adult human male, is a woman.
And now powerful forces have lined up on both sides. On the side of Roxanne Tickle are the Federal Sex Discrimination Commissioner Anna Cody and pro-trans rights group Equality Australia, whose patron is the Governor-General, Sam Mostyn. On the other side, arguing for the right of women to have their own spaces, are two long-established lobby groups, the Lesbian Action Group and the LGB Alliance Australia. In 2013, a bill introduced by the Gillard government amended the Sex Discrimination Act 1984 to ban discrimination against anyone on the basis of sexual orientation, intersex status or gender identity. Here's how it defined gender identity.
Gender identity means the gender-related identity, appearance or mannerisms, or other gender-related characteristics of a person, whether by way of medical intervention or not, with or without regard to the person's designated sex at birth.
By taking her appeal, Sal Grover, founder of Giggle for Girls, is challenging this amendment, arguing it's unconstitutional. Her case comes after a ruling by the United Kingdom's Supreme Court in April, which found the word woman meant only someone who was born biologically female. Here's the Lesbian Action Group's Nicole Mowbray.
We had a thriving community prior to about 2000 where lesbians could come together in single-sex spaces and it would be just lesbians because lesbians are female. Now we've had this forced upon us that we must accept males in our spaces no matter how they identify. And so what was once a thriving community, we had balls, dances, clubs, pubs, sporting teams, it's all gone. And it's quite frankly decimated our community. We can't be found now because we're underground.
I'm joined by Rosemary Neil, who's a senior writer with The Australian. Rosemary, tell me, zooming out, the big picture here, what is the difference of opinion about whether one biological sex or another has a right to single-sex spaces?
Well, the Sex Discrimination Act was changed in 2013 and it outlaws any kind of discrimination against transgender people. So that means that trans women who identify as lesbian must be allowed into lesbian spaces.
Let's just break that down. So by trans women, you mean people who were born in a male body but who now wish to identify as women, who now believe that they are women and want to be acknowledged as such?
Yes. I talked to one academic who cites a study that found that about 43% of the trans women surveyed identified as either lesbian or bisexual. And the law says as well that they are entitled, therefore, to be in lesbian-only spaces, and that can include dating apps, speed dating nights, things like that. There are lesbian groups. The Lesbian Action Group is one who are not happy about that situation. They say that under that broad queer umbrella, that people of many identities now attend lesbian events. So they would like to see the law changed to restore the right of lesbians to hold single-sex events for lesbians who were born female.
We're not wanting heterosexual males in our space. We're not wanting gay men in our space. It doesn't mean we hate them. It's exactly the same with trans people. We don't hate trans people. We just want our boundaries to be respected and to be able to meet as women, as lesbians.
Yeah, so this is a slight evolution of an idea that I think many of us are familiar with, and this is the argument put forward by people like J.K. Rowling, the author, that biological sex is real, that it's binary, that you are either male or female in every cell of your body, and that doesn't change. The Lesbian Action Group told you about something called the new lesbophobia. What do they mean by that?
They feel that their culture and their meeting spaces have been decimated over the last 20, 30 years, and that part of that is related to transgender ideology, and part of that is related to our anti-discrimination laws, which say that anyone who identifies as female and as a lesbian must be admitted into lesbian events, even if they have a male body. Lesbian Action Group says it is concerned that it is receiving anecdotal evidence that younger lesbians are being sexually harassed by men and by trans women at some events that are, ostensibly for queer women.
Tell me about the case of Anna.
So I spoke to several young lesbians for this story, and Anna told me about how when she was 19, she had recently come out as a lesbian. She struck up an online friendship with a trans woman on an anonymous chat site. Anna told me that the trans woman pressured her to perform oral sex and that this trans woman had a male body, had a penis. Anna refused. When she later told that story, she shared it to her close female university peers. Rather than empathise with her, some of them turned on her, told her she was a TERF and transphobic. She says she was also told that lesbians actually can like the opposite sex. Anna was very upset by this because she still had some PTSD, having grown up in a home with domestic violence. And unfortunately, she was molested at the age of 13 by a man while she was walking home from school.
Yeah, so this is not just a philosophical argument, it's also about physical safety for some of the people who you spoke to.
Yes, well, that is what the Lesbian Action Group is partly arguing as it goes to court in this Tickle appeal, which starts on Monday. In their court submission, they do state at one point, this is a quote, "It is now commonplace for lesbians to be pressured into having sex with trans women and to face risk of social isolation if they do not agree with that very concept." I should stress here that the young lesbians I spoke to weren't all saying that that sort of pressure was coming from transgender people themselves. Often it was coming from activists. Often it was coming from other women who just consider themselves allies with transgender people. So I think it's important to point that out.
Yeah, I think one thing that everybody under the rainbow flag or under the LGBTQIA+ acronym would share is experience of being discriminated against and empathy with other people who feel that they're discriminated against. And so I can understand why they might feel that this is really difficult territory to step into.
Yes, it is difficult territory to step into, and the transgender community is a vulnerable community. And the changing of the Sex Discrimination Act in 2013 has, afforded them important protections. But what we do have here is a clash of rights between lesbians who are saying they want one type of space, an exclusive space for lesbians who were born female, and transgender people who want the world to be more inclusive, who have been terribly discriminated against in the past. But the activists such as the Lesbian Action Group, who do believe in sex-based differences, have fallen foul of, in a way, the queer establishment, and their demands have been called discriminatory and transphobic, which is a criticism that they reject. They say they simply want their own safe spaces and that where appropriate they could come together in mixed sex spaces. But, they're saying that when a queer women's event is organised these days, that can mean that you have bisexual women there, trans men, trans women, and some people who they feel may actually be heterosexual men turning up. Nicole Mowbray, who's the spokeswoman for Lesbian Action Group, does actually feel that, in a sense, the law is promoting a kind of rape culture if a group of women are saying, we want to meet in this exclusively female way, and the law is saying, no, we won't let you. Other organisations involved in the Rainbow Coalition would certainly reject that argument.
Coming up, the idea it's transphobic to have a preference for a certain kind of body. Not surprisingly, this is very hot on social media. In 2019, there was a tweet by a Canadian competitive cyclist and transgender activist called Veronica Ivy, who said genital preferences are transphobic. So that's going further than the discussion about spaces. That's saying that no matter how you identify, it is transphobic to have a preference either for penises or vaginas, isn't it?
Yes, it is saying that. And the younger lesbians who I interviewed were saying they do come across that thinking in queer circles and in university circles. And they said in their own queer circles as well. And because that is an idea that distresses them, that, a lesbian should be prepared to have sex with someone with a penis who also identifies as lesbian, has really seen them ostracised within the gay community.
Rosemary Neil is a senior journalist with The Australian. You can read her thoughtful, incisive journalism anytime at theaustralian.com.au.